Hi everyone, and welcome to another installment of I Excel and So Can You. Today I'm going to do something a little different. 2 videos ago I showed you how I went about creating a comprehensive financial peace university budgeting toolkit in Excel, as you can see here, all made out of mock data. Now, today I'm going to show you how to build virtually the same toolkit using Google's Google Doc. Now, the major advantage of building your budgeting toolkit in Google Docs is that it allows you to collaboratively work on the same document simultaneously with others from anywhere with an internet connection. So if both you and your spouse have smartphones, one of you could post how much you just finished spending at the mall in the mall parking lot, while the other one posts how much you just spent filling up your gas tank miles away, all on the same document, and every adjustment made by either party is automatically recorded and saved. So it's pretty cool. However, there are two major drawbacks. Google Docs is not Excel, and therefore it does lack some of the functionality and features available using Microsoft Excel. And in this video, I will show you a couple examples. Secondly, before you get started, I want you to think about and ask yourself whether you are comfortable posting your financial information online, even on a secured email account like Google Docs or Gmail. Okay, with that in mind, let's begin. So if you haven't done it before, just go, you can find Google Docs by going to Google and Googling Google Docs. Just go to Google Docs. I believe you will need a Gmail account, and to create a spreadsheet, you'll just go to Create and Spreadsheet, and what comes up, you'll notice, looks a lot like an Excel spreadsheet with tabs that you can add by clicking on this little Add Sheet button and name, same naming functions. To name it, you'll click on here to rename from Untitled Spreadsheet. Okay. Now, fortunately, I don't need to go over and recreate the wheel that I have here. I've already done so in a other version seen here. Okay. So my first video on this subject was rather long, roughly 20-something minutes. So I'm not going to show you how I went about creating anything, but real briefly, here you have the total income in the household. That's take-home pay, keep in mind, and then I total it here. Dave Ramsey has 11 expense categories that he recommends you break down your monthly income into these categories. And to do that, I broke these 11 into smaller categories and then grouped them back eventually. Now, when I was doing this part, where I was actually making estimates of what I think I spend in each one of those categories, I made sure that this total amount here equaled the total amount here, so that the remaining dollar amount each month was 0, and that every dollar and every cent had a allocated category. Then I regrouped them back into the 11 categories and made this little summary table here, where they're all perfectly adjacent to one another, expenses and income. Once I had my monthly estimate, I created the ledger. And in Excel, the ledger is really cool because instead of just using a range, here we can actually convert the range into an actual table. And in this table, you have the date, which is optional, and then the month, which is just taking whatever date you entered here and converting it to the first of that month using this formula seen here. Column C is optional, but D is not optional. You'll want column D to be either one of the inflow categories or one of the outflow categories, and you want it to be case sensitive. And the way we ensure that is using data validation. You can fortunately use data validation in Google Docs by selecting the entire possible region that you'll want to add rows. And this is one of the big drawbacks. In Excel, you can just add it to whatever you have existing, and then each time you add more to it, it will automatically add that data validation. But in Google Docs, you'll have to think ahead and go to data validation The cell range is the range that you want to add the validated cells to. I'm going to make this E2 to 1012, and the criteria is the list of options that I want to make available. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag these cells here. Go to OK and save. Make sure display in cell buttons to show list. Save. Okay. And you'll notice what that did is it added these little triangles in each one of these cells that has all of your options here. And then of course you have the dollar amount that you spent in that category. Okay. So once you have your ledger here, you can move on to the action tracking, which looks unsurprisingly a lot like the table seen here, where we have how much we estimated we would spend in a month and how much we actually spent in a month. The estimate is coming from our numbers in the base table. See, base exclamation mark I9, and everything to the right of the estimate column is linked to the ledger, or the table within the ledger, using the SUMIF function. We are totaling the dollar amount in the table, and then we are making sure that the category matches this category here, and that the month matches here. Hopefully that makes sense. The form is the same formula here. Again, you're really just concerned that this and this match up with the cells in this range here. Now, because this is in a table, you'll just have to go ahead and establish the range in the ledger tab to something, really big. So we'll change these to 1025, 1025, enter. Okay. And that's how you'll make each one of these columns that summarizes how much you actually spent in each one of these months for each one of these categories. Okay, so once you have this, you can make this comparison table that looks at how much you predicted and how much you've spent and what's the difference between them and what percentage of what you expected did you wind up spending. Or you can create this table. Now, one weird drawback is what we wanted here were just points to float on top of our columns. The points being how much we have actually spent and the columns being how much we predicted we would spend. Unfortunately, in Google Docs, you have to keep the little line that separates them. But in any case, let's go ahead. To do that, you're going to select this region, or maybe I should pause for a second. What you have in this table is your 11 expense categories, and then how much you expected to spend in those expense categories, and then how much you actually spent in a dynamic month. And the way we make this dynamic is by using the offset function like we did before, where it's looking at this cell here and then looking at this cell to determine how many columns to the right should we move and how many rows down, which is 0, which is why this is blank here, but we want it to be A1. And so if right now it's looking at July, but if this was 0, it becomes June, and if this becomes 2, it becomes August 2014. And each time it does, this changes. The forecast remains the same because I only have one estimate, but I already showed you how you can make forecasts distinct for each individual month in the previous video. Okay, so that's how you make the table. This is how you make the chart. Select your area, skip the total one, that's not necessary. Go to Insert, Chart. You want to use one row as header, and then go to Chart Type, Line Combo. Then we want to customize it so that change this to, this will be whatever you set your header to be in D1, and that's currently dynamic. I'm going to minimize the line even more and change the point size to 7. Okay. I don't like horizontal axis labels, which is this part here, and I don't like chart titles typically, which is this part here. Insert. The last change I'll make is to move the legend to the bottom. Okay. And another drawback to Google Docs is in the Excel version, we were able to add data labels to our chart, and at least currently, I don't believe we can do the same in Google Docs. Okay. So assuming you're satisfied with your toolkit and you want to go ahead and share this with other people, you can go to do so. You go up here to share. It'll have a different person's name, or it'll have your name there. And you want to go to invite people. Enter their email address. I believe it probably needs to be a Gmail account. And you can offer them the ability to edit the file, or you can limit them to only leave comments, or they can only view it. So that's up to you as the creator of this spreadsheet. Okay, I'm going to go to cancel because that's a made-up person. Go to done. And so yeah, that's how you create my Financial Peace University budgeting toolkit from Excel, and now it's in your Google Docs. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Have a good day.